Hello there and welcome back to another episode of the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast with your hosts Laz Michaelides and Felipe Amarim. Felipe, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. As you know, I just moved to my new flat. So very stressful week because of that, moving house and other stuff. But it's been great. It's a lovely place and I'm really happy here. How are you doing in the country?
I'm all right, thank you. I've been ill the last 2 weeks, so please, listeners, give me a break if my voice is a bit, a bit lower. Is it just more manly? Is that it? A bit lower? I'd
No,
say
it sounds more bluesy.
more bluesy. There we go.
Yeah,
But
can
yeah,
sing
I'm
some
glad
muddy
to.
water stuff now.
Yeah, glad to hear about your move, man. I mean, the moving sucks, doesn't it? But when you're in it, it's like, yes, fuck yeah, we've done it. A big achievement unlocked.
Exactly. And talking about moving, the album we're going to talk about
Very good, very good. That is a
is
pro.
about
That is a pro transition.
it's about permanent waves of change, isn't it? Things are always changing, always coming
That's right.
waves.
Love it. So if you
And
didn't get it from Felipe's obvious hint, we are doing today Permanent Waves by Rush. So as usual, I'll give you the quick album info before we dive in. So the album is Permanent Waves by Rush, released on the 14th of January 1980, recorded in just 1 month between September and October of 1979 in Le Studio in Quebec, Canada. Genres, I think it's pretty safe to say now we'd look back at it as a prog rock genre album, but other ones that have been associated with it are new wave and art pop. The album clocks in at 35 and a half minutes long through the label Anthem, and it was produced by Rush and Terry Brown. And Felipe is actually the person who chose this album. Now, originally in our scheduling, Felipe, we had the album Moving Pictures scheduled in, but a
yes.
few weeks ago you changed it to Permanent Waves. Do you want to? I mean, first of all, tell
Oh,
us why you
yeah.
chose this album, and then tell us afterwards why you went for this one instead of Moving Pictures.
So moving pictures would be the obvious choice if you want to, we cover a lot of different bands, a lot of albums, and we try not to repeat the band. God knows when we're going to be talking about Rush again as an episode. So I had to pick one album that was meaningful to me. And I thought, well, it's the most acclaimed album. And it's got like Tom Sawyer and YYZ and loads of their classics. And that would be, as I said, the obvious choice. And I decided to go for something that's not that obvious, but also one of their most important albums, maybe the album that changed the direction of their careers. And we like talking about those albums, isn't it? That the albums that defined the sound of a band. And I think everything that Rush, you know what? I'm not a diehard fan. Okay, so this big disclaimer, because Rush fans are really, as a general rule, they are addicted to the band. They know every small detail about the band's history. So I need to apologize in advance because they're going to be upset with any minor mistakes we're doing the show.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
But what I'm saying is this album, what I can say is every album I've listened to that they released after Permanent Waves has something that sounds like Permanent Waves, So it is an album that, in my opinion, defined what Rush is as a band. The fact that you have a three-piece band playing a lot of instruments and recording loads of tracks, like doing loads of overdubs, and you listen to it, it sounds like a 5 or 6 piece, and they play everything live. They just play all of it. You listen to them live, there's no backing tracks, no bullshit. They actually playing. And you can see Geddy Lee using the Taurus pedal, which gives him the bass on the pedal, and whilst he plays keyboards and sings. So they started to experiment a lot with overdubs and adding a lot of layers. And this album's got loads of it, and it kind of defined the way they sound, and that multi-layered music comes alive on stage up to, well, I wouldn't say up to this day, because they jammed together. I think they played with the Foo Fighters for the Taylor Hawkins tribute, but up to the last day of Rush as a band, they kept that quality, So I think that's the main reason.
Yeah.
Also, it's a phenomenal album.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have to say it was really enjoyable. And I think what struck me most was that fantastic balance achieved between the accessibility of the album and the progressiveness of it. I think you've got some obvious songs, like let's take a look. So you've got, I don't know, say Spirit of the Radio and Entre Nous. Those songs are kind of obviously, I say obviously, it's not overly obvious, but are in the pop and progressive spectrum, those two songs are closer to the pop. And then you've got Jacob's Ladder and Natural Science, which are closer to the prog. But
Yeah.
the middle ground in between is fantastic because Spirit of the Radio and Entre Nous both have progressive elements in it. Natural Science and Jacob's Ladder both have poppy elements in it. And I just thought that they absolutely found this fantastic balance between making songs accessible and playing intricate stuff as they used to. Prog in general is something I struggle with because when I tell someone I love a song by a band, it's often because 90% of that song I enjoy in terms of riffs. Okay. Oh, yes, I like that riff. Oh, chorus, nice melody. Do you know what? The verse doesn't do much for me, but it doesn't matter because the chorus is great. The riff's great. You know, that's how I listen to and enjoy music. With prog, when you've got 18-minute songs, there's so
Yeah.
much not to like, I think, you know, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
the song that comes to my head, excuse me, the song that comes to my head is that one by Yes, which has, in my opinion, one of the most memorable choruses, which is the seasons will pass you by. Like, it's just, couldn't even tell you the song
Close
or
to
the
the
album.
edge.
Close to the
Yeah.
Edge. But that song, I remember it just for that chorus, just for that melody,
Yeah.
because it's gorgeous. Couldn't tell you anything about the rest of the song.
Yeah.
But what you've got here is you've got Rush doing the progressive stuff with the complex time signatures, with unusual syncopated hits, with extended synthesizer middle sections, but poppy choruses, accessible verses. You know, I just thought it was very, very good.
That's interesting. Do you know what? I agree with you, and I had an interesting conversation yesterday about this album because remember when we were touring in Brazil?
Yep.
You met a fella, a good friend of mine called Tânio Zacasio. So I may remember. I need to give him a shout because, well, he gave me this image to be used as a background. If you're watching us on YouTube, there's the Rush pet shop. There's loads of animals here. If you know the album covers, they're all part of one of the album covers or videos. Thanks, Tanius, for your contribution. And I need to thank him because we had an hour chat on the phone about Rush, because I said he's a specialist, and I need to mention his website, Portal Rush Brasil. So for Portuguese speakers, check it out. Super cool.
Well, send me the link, and I'll put it in the group in the show notes. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So he's one of those diehard fans. He knows everything about every lyric, every album, etc. So I said, I can't do this episode without talking to this guy. So one thing, but it was just like, I wasn't like trying to interview him and get the information. We're just chatting about the band. And one thing he said that what defines this album, what makes it different from the previous albums, is not the sales, because like they had some commercial hits, like in terms of sales, but they didn't have a hit song until Spirit of Radio. They simply didn't have a song that was suitable for the radio. Like ironically, Spirit of Radio, or so it's funny. So it's the first album that they had songs that are like Spirit of Radio, Freewill. You can consider them as hits, but here's the thing: they've finally turned their sound into something accessible to a much bigger audience without losing the experimental side, without stopping like flirting with prog rock. As you said, Jacob's Ladder and Natural Science are fine examples of prog music, and I mean, if some people might argue that's not prog. For me, that's prog. That's proper prog.
Yeah. And
it's like beautiful. And the other thing, we also discussed the fact that everyone talks about how good New Peart was and how good Gedley has always been as a bassist, singer, keyboard player. And people seem to forget about Alex Lifeson, and he's like a huge part of their sound. And I would dare to say, see if you agree with me on that one. He is a rare case of a guitar virtuoso who doesn't go into self-indulgence.
I agree with you. And although there are guitar solos in this album, most of the playing is just tasteful. It's there for what it's needed to do. I'm going to come back to what you said about Lifeson, but I just wanted to note something that unless I misheard or didn't listen properly, and I have given the album a few listens, 3 minutes 55 into Natural Science is the first drum solo of the album, isn't it? And it's only
Yeah,
like
like
two bars long.
it's a drum break,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's a drum break.
And
So
I thought
again,
for a
yeah,
prog album, you normally hear solos everywhere, which is
yeah,
why a lot of me, when I was thinking about this, when I listened to the album, I got to the end and I thought, is this rock pop? Is it prog rock? Or is it classic hard rock? And no one needs to answer the question. It can be all three. You know, you can have one opinion and I can have another, and whatever, we're happy with it. But I thought it's so rocky, isn't it, just to have guitar solos?
yeah.
And it's so proggy having bass solos and drum solos, yet we didn't have any.
Yeah, you have what you have in Natural Science. We can even call it a drum break.
Yeah.
Normally, a drum break is made of a groove, but that's like a long fill. And again, Neil Peart in this album, it doesn't overplay. He's one of the most creative drummers in history, and I think it's really hard to debate this. And it was one of the most important drummers, as an influence. Like he was the biggest influence of some of the greatest drummers out there, including Mike Portnoy, and other like great drummers. And the thing is, he's not clearly not trying to show off. It's all about, is this fill necessary for the song? Is this groove? And the groove is rock solid all the time. It's very groovy in many ways. And there's an interesting point, which is like the time signature changes, which is if you actually stop and analyze the time signatures in the song, like you're never staying 4/4 for too long with those guys, but it flows.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the melody is still the boss. Everything they're doing serves the melody, serves the groove, and it works. And I think the producer mentioned that when you can have loads of different time signatures in a song and the audience doesn't notice, then you're doing a great job. And that's
very good point.
This album's full of this.
Very good point. Where did you want to take the discussion first?
Well, I have a quiz for you.
Go on. Oh, okay.
Oh, 3 questions for you.
Oh, all right. Okay, let's go.
2 of them related to the album cover.
Okay. All right.
So the model in the album cover, what's her name? I forgot her name. Can you believe that? I got her name here.
Let me just get it
up. We need to get their name because I really want to mention her. Paula Turnbull.
Okay.
She's also in another album cover by Rush. Which album is that?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person because I don't know any other Rush albums. But let's put this to the listeners, all right? Listen, listeners, this question's for
do you guys know?
Rush fans.
Give them. No, the Rush fans are gonna know. That's not a question for them. That's easy for them, right? She's on Exit Stage Left, which is the live album they released after, if I'm not wrong, after Moving Pictures, and that the album cover got loads of references about other album covers, so she's in that cover. Still about the album cover. I know you have a reference there that just behind you. You don't have the album cover, but you have.
I think it's like the deluxe album cover or something.
Yeah, well, it's super.
Get out of the way so everyone can see.
The actual album cover has a man waving right at the back. Who is that man? You can't Google that.
No, I'm not Googling the man. I'm zooming in on the photo. Oh, yes, he is. Who is that man?
See, there's a man. Who is that man?
Oh, God. I mean, do you know what? A part of me wants to say it's the same guy standing on the road, on Abbey Road, Imagine if they got that guy in,
That
just the
would
guy
be
that no one knows who he is, you know.
that would be rock and roll's greatest
Yeah.
conspiracy. He might be.
Is he famous, this guy?
No.
No. But
Well, yeah, you know, for Rush fans, he's famous because he designed loads of their covers. That's Hugh Syme, who is the designer who did the album cover, and he just
wow.
like he was cheeky enough to put himself
Slot himself in.
sense of humor is
Yeah.
like he said. So yeah, and it's you know how do you say, a collage montage.
Yeah,
Any of those French words for loads of different pictures, isn't it? You have the model, which someone photographed for the cover,
Yep.
and you have him in the back. And the main picture is that we also get the actual name, isn't it? It's the Hurricane Carla that happened in 1961. That's one of the pictures taken during that hurricane. Nice. Hurricane Carla. So that's it. Okay. So I ask you two questions about the cover, right? Yeah. So here's a question about a song. Alex Lifeson said that the hardest song for him to play in the whole of Rush's catalog is one of the songs from this album. Can you guess?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to go with, because of what I know of Rush, which is very little, listeners, just so you're aware, I know very little of Rush. But if the idea of Rush is to always be technical, always be playing intricate stuff, I'm going to make a guess that he struggled with the simple one. So I'm going to guess different strings. No,
he struggled with the longest one. Natural Science.
Okay, I should have.
He said the reason why he has nightmares about that song is because they did millions of takes. And an interesting fact about Lifeson, he doesn't like doing many takes of the same song. He's a very creative musician, and he likes to be in, you know, and as people say, in the zone all the time, in the moment, creating all the time.
You and me know when we're in the studio, once you get, I mean, we're good at our jobs, aren't we, Felipe? So we were often done in a few takes.
So, you know, there's no evidence of that. But
do you remember that one song we did?
When you listen to an album, you don't know how many takes we've done. So we can always claim that we've done all of our albums with one take.
Yeah. But
actually, all of them in one night.
There you go, yeah. In real life, you do go over things multiple times, and you do multiple takes. And as you know, we were stuck on a bar for that last album we did together. We were stuck on one bar of music that was going from one tempo to another, and we were there for hours, weren't we? Probably 2 hours trying to figure out one bar of music.
Write it down, memorize it. And it's like, and I imagine with a song like Natural Science, you have loads of parts where you...
Oh God, yeah, imagine that.
You might have like endless arguments about one bar, one bass phrase, one guitar solo.
Yeah. Sorry, my point is that once, if you're going into the first take and you're there like, oh, this is brilliant, yeah, I'm really vibing. If you keep fucking it up and you're on the 10th take, for example, the song starts to lose its appeal to you. You get a little frustrated, don't you? You're like, oh, this song again.
So what you're saying is exactly what I read on this interview with Lifeson, because it's like he said, I don't like doing too many takes of the same song. I like to do 1 or 2 takes, get like that really fresh approach of the song and just get it done.
Yeah. And
so he struggled a lot with that one, with the fact that he had to do many takes of that song. But okay, so you know what? I'm gonna give you a 4th question.
Why not? Bonus question.
Oh, why not? Bonus question. That's worth twice the amount of twice the amount of points of the other ones. In which UK studio was this album mixed? Oh, I bet you didn't even know.
No, I've read something about it today, but I'm not going to be able to remember it. Oh, shit. I'm trying to remember where it was. Was it in Wales?
London.
Which one then?
Do you know what? I'm just moving away from this place. It's right behind the place I live in Soho. Trident Studios. Trident Studios. David Bowie recorded there. Loads of famous rock stars recorded that.
Oh, brilliant! So they mixed it at this studio.
They mixed it there because at the time they were recording the album and touring the UK.
Oh,
So,
great.
so they recorded in Canada and they came to the UK on tour whilst the album was, being mixed. So they mixed it here at Trident Studios, iconic studios in Soho. There's every time I go to the bakery next door to the studio to just get some coffee, I see, the tourist guides with loads of people, talking about the studio and making up loads of stories. They're not real.
Yeah, as is the way with London.
Yeah, for 100 quid a day, you can have a really nice trip around. So with someone telling you fake stories about famous bands. Anyway,
cool. Where do you want to go now? Do you start talking about the music, or
I'm the boss today, isn't it?
You are the boss. Yeah.
Geez,
I said to Felipe, I said, listen, I'm a little ill. You chose this album, you know it better. Why didn't you navigate it? And he's completely taken advantage, and he's wearing his boss hat. He was shouting instructions at me before we record. No, I'm joking. But yeah, Felipe's the boss today.
Well, there's a couple of subjects I want to talk about. The band itself, like as I said, everyone talks about Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, about how good they are as instrumentalists. And you have this amazing character who is Alex Lifeson, who's got like this brilliant sense of humor. If you watch any of their interviews, it's impossible to not have a laugh when you listen to Lifeson. He's just so funny.
In one of the interviews I sent you, he I don't know if it was him or Geddy Lee, but they were talking about Neil Peart's, is it Peart or Peart?
I think it's Peart.
Yeah, Neil. They were talking about Neil Peart's. They were talking about Neil Peart's lyrics, and they said, Neil, do you find it? Is it? He said something like, you do all the lyric writing. What about the other two? I think Alex Lifeson said, yeah, well, I can't read, so.
This they're just so funny. I think was it well, the fans can correct me if it wasn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something, they got like one of those awards or whatever, inductions, whatever that is. And he got the he went on stage to thank the audience, and all he did was to say blah 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 for like 3 minutes or so. He told the whole band's story with a blah 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 blah, and it just kept going on and on. And the other two guys were like at some point a bit embarrassed and then laughing. It's like, where are you gonna go with this? I think the three of them were there, or maybe it was just him and Geddy Lee. I don't know.
Right.
But it's like he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing: I believe their personalities and their characters are a huge part of their sound. So when you can be that good at your instrument, and on the other hand, you don't take yourself too seriously. So
you're not just trying. A lot of avenues, doesn't it?
It does, and I think at the time they recorded this album, I think they had families, they had kids. They're like, it's another moment of your life.
Seventh studio album, by the way, 7th.
Yeah,
that's quite
they were
far
successful
in,
before. Yeah. They were successful before this album.
I kind of imagine
didn't have a hit song.
I kind of imagine they were a bit of a cult band. They had a dedicated following.
Yeah, they're selling really well. They tour in the world, but this album took them to bigger venues, better ticket sales. Apparently, the tour before, the ticket sales were not great, so they even considered to quit and call it a day, and Rush would be no more. And this album kind of changed everything. So again, about the sound of the band, they like experimenting with new technologies and everything that is available. And you can see the natural science has got a lot of that, and they use technology to the limit, I would say, as long as they are operating it. So it's not the machines taking over; it's them actually doing everything, and that's another big part of their sound. Now, I like to talk about the things that people normally overlook or don't take into consideration when they're talking about Rush.
Okay.
So everyone talks about Neil Peart as one of the greatest drummers of all time.
Do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah,
okay. I do. He changed the game for drummers. The fact that you have those huge drum kits everywhere, and you have the electronic components of his kit, like that was a big part of his sound. And he started that, like I think Bill Bruford did a lot of that in the probably, I think, I don't know if it's late 70s or early 80s when electronic drum pads started to be available for touring musicians and studio musicians. And Neil Peart and Bill Bruford were some of the drummers who actually made it popular. So he was always like into the technological side of it, but also he did a lot of historical research. One of his favorite drummers was Buddy Rich. He organized, if I'm not wrong, he organized the Buddy Rich tribute album and a concert. And so he was into jazz and all sorts of stuff. Phenomenal drummer. But my favorite thing about Rush is by far their lyrics. By far, above all. And I'm pretty sure that lots of the diehard fans are going to agree with me that Neil Peart is one of the greatest lyricists of rock history as well. And
I was surprised.
One point that most people don't even touch.
Yeah, I was surprised to find out he was the lyricist. I kind of assumed it was Geddy Lee, but
no, Geddy Lee. I might be wrong about this. You might be able to Google it or not. But I think Geddy Lee only wrote one song
of this album.
The words for one song with different strings.
Yep. That's
it, but that's the only one. It's beautiful, by the way. It's beautiful lyrics. So Neil Peart, he went into the more philosophical side of songwriting. I think it became more solid from this album. Because they go into the how can I put it? Bit of storytelling back in the day, a bit more subjective. That's I think that's the word. They became a bit more philosophical and objective and talking about humans and talk about the human condition and feelings and thoughts and human interactions in this album. The fourth song, is it Entre Nous? Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so, yeah. Entre Nous. Sounds French.
That's good. That's good French, lads. If it's not, we can just pretend it is. So Entre Nous is for me, right? Again, that's my interpretation. Is about like any relationship between a couple or two friends, and about leaving the right amount of space. It's really hard to find that balance in human interactions. How close should we be?
Or, can I just tell you what Entre Nous means in English?
Between us?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that's great because you said the space.
my language is still exactly. My language is based in Latin as well, so it's entre nos in Portuguese. So Entre Nous can be entre nos.
That's a cheat code. That's a Portuguese cheat code.
It might be. so that song is it's a simple song compared to the rest of the album in many ways, but the lyrics are beautiful. Now, Free Will, and I think I sent you, and I want your King's English. Do we say King's English now after the Queen's gone?
Has to be, yeah.
Yeah, we don't say Queen's English anymore, so we have the King's English. So I wanted to read that bit from Free Will. And I want to discuss
which one is it? The first?
Wait a minute. I think it's the.
Give me the first word.
Wait a minute. I sent it. So you know what? What happens when I? Okay, got it. So Free Will be the second. Oh no. Each of us. No. Sorry. You can choose a ready guide. That's the one.
Cool. All right. You can choose a ready guide in some celestial voice. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
How simple and profound is that?
Yeah, lovely.
Isn't it? And I remember reading one of Neil Peart's articles or interviews, or I don't remember exactly what it was. And he was talking about how he was fascinated about collectivism and the fact that people they tend to be attracted to political groups or religions and all that stuff. And he was, here's the thing. We talk about very rarely we talk about the political side of songwriting here. And we live in a world where you have the clear left and right wing policies, and most people affiliate themselves with one or another. And sometimes that's reflected in musicians' lyrics and ideologies. And Neil Peart is one of the few libertarian songwriters I know, or if not the only one, only one who would clearly reference libertarian ideology and political views in a song, and which means in a simple way, he talks a lot more about individual choices than collective decisions
Yeah.
But here's the catch. That's the thing I discussed with Tenius in the phone call. So again, thank you for your help, Tenius. Is the fact that he's not saying, abandon all of the ideologies out there and do whatever. It's like, okay, you're going to make your own decisions, but you're responsible for your fate. So it's
that is the embodiment of libertarianism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you're a free man. You do you, but be aware that you are like responsible for the consequences of your choices, and no one else is. And that's a really powerful statement. And I love that, if you choose not to, decide to still have made a choice. So you can't escape the fact that you're an individual, and you have to deal with the consequences of your choices. So that's that, and that's like, I think that sort of songwriting appeals to everyone who stops to listen and read the lyrics, I guess. I think it's really, really powerful, and it's very unique. So I think what makes them what they are as a band is, first of all, Neil's lyrics, and second, Geddy's voice. Geddy Lee's voice. And then there's one thing.
Yeah.
Some people hate it. Some people love it. There's pretty much nothing in between.
Well, do you know what? I'm sorry to fuck up what you've just said, but I'm kind of in between. I'm definitely more towards liking it. And I tell you why. It's because I feel it's appropriate and it works with the music.
Yeah.
A voice I struggle with, and I wish I didn't struggle with it because I wish I liked the band more, was Dream Theater, which we've done before. I feel his voice is very similar to Geddy Lee's, but it's too soft and it's too high pitched. And for me, it doesn't match the music that Dream Theater put out. Whereas Geddy Lee, it works really nicely. And I think
it's
comes because of the accessibility of the music. Just to say that those vocals on the outro of Free Will, my God, like, when he's just I don't want to say shouting, it's probably not the correct vocal term, but properly projecting his voice and almost screaming. It's wonderful. Now, something I read, which you might be able to tell me about, is that it said that they said with this album, Geddy Lee restrained himself vocally. Apparently, he reined it in. So what I took from that is that he's way more adventurous on previous albums, and he's much more controlled here.
Well, if you listen to the album,
you agree with?
Yeah, I do. If you listen to Fly By Night, which is their second album, I think it's the first one with Neil Peart on drums, and so his vocals are way more aggressive.
Can you give me one song that would
the song Fly By Night is a great example.
Listeners, as usual, any song we mention will be in the playlist, which you can find in the show notes below.
Yeah, but listen to the whole album, is great. And the thing is, so I would say that his vocals resemble a little bit of Robert Plant, not the nature of his voice, the tone of his voice, but the fact that he could go to a really high note and sound raw and aggressive when he wanted to. And in this album, he's even more melodic, and I think is kind of exploring the low tones a little bit more. And I like different strings. Is that there is not that song is not designed to be an impressive vocal performance, isn't it? He's serving the melody. It's technically beautiful. It's melodic, and it suits the song. He's not shouting. He's not.
And I love music that does that. I love music that uses the vocals as another equally as important instrument, and not look, I'm the vocalist, it's all about me,
Yeah, exactly. Do you have like any? Here's a question, because we're approaching pretty much all of the songs all at the same time here. There's a few moments in the album that I find that I want to go. I had this on CD, so I would go back, and listen to it again. I was like,
so moments on the album.
Because like the drum and bass unison phrase at the beginning of Spirit of Radio is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I've got that written down. The hits, the syncopated hits, really unusual.
And it's so in sync bass and drums. There's no editing to that. It's not like modern days where you put everything to the grid. They're actually playing it.
I think there's only 6 songs, so I feel like it's okay for us to go through them and just say what we liked about them. So let's start with Spirit of the Radio. As you mentioned, those hits at the start, I thought they were wicked, because the straight off the bat, you've got that, which could be like a bloody a Queen intro, couldn't it? Very kind of,
Yeah.
with that poppy vibe. And it's just kind of contrasted with these really progressive syncopated hits before it descends into that which again, I think that's kind of Queeny, but on
Yeah.
way more of the metal side of Queen,
Yeah.
some of those hard rock riffs they wrote.
And it does sound like their previous albums, that kind of riff.
Yes,
And
does it?
then
Okay.
yeah, and then they break into something completely different, isn't it?
Well, the verse. Now, the one song, again, I'm just going to add it to the playlist now. The one song that I completely hear in the verse of Spirit of the Radio is Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
Spirit of Radio. You added of the radio.
Oh,
so
God,
like
I'm so
that. Oh,
sorry.
my God. They're going to
That's
cancel
it.
us.
They've turned off. The Rush fans have turned off. Let's not insult them too much because we do need them. We want them to listen.
We're joking because they are I actually I admire the band and I admire the fact that people can be so committed to
enjoy
enjoy one band like this.
But yeah, the verse of Spirit of the Radio almost follows. I could be wrong here, but it feels like it follows that chord progression of "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. Yeah. And I just found that really interesting because it shows the accessibility. What does everyone love about that Journey song? It's that it's so simple. The melody's so simple. The chords are easy to follow. And I thought we've just had this incredibly diverse and dynamic intro where, like I said, you've got that really produced guitar followed by those syncopated hits, followed by a kind of hard rock riff. And then it just descends into a very simple verse. Yeah, I really enjoyed the verse of that song. And the one thing I wanted to pick up on is the lyrics of that song. Because there was one lyric that I really enjoyed, and that was, let me just find it. All this machinery making modern music can still be open-hearted, not so coldly charted. It's really just a question of your honesty. Yeah, your honesty. One likes to believe in the freedom of music. I love that.
Good,
it's like a very obvious complaint about the way music's going. He really is just saying, no, I don't like, the whole song's kind of about that vibe though. Do you want to expand on the lyrics of Spirit of Radio?
I think, because I think it does talk about the power of music, of making your day better, make you feel good, going to work. It sounds like there's a person going to work listening to the radio as well.
Yeah,
there's magic at your fingers, isn't it? So you tune into the radio, choose the song you want to listen to, and that makes you feel better. But they also
it's a lovely concept, isn't it? This song, I love the idea of it.
They also talk about the commercial side of music and how you can kind of sell your soul to the devil as a band, isn't it?
Right.
And become more commercial. It's funny, is they're almost criticizing something they kind of did.
Because doing it in this album.
But in their defenses, and that's the beautiful thing about Rush, they were not trying to write a hit. At that point in their career, like many other bands, some bands reach a point, okay, we're fairly successful so far. Why not trying to write a song that's that's gonna make everyone sing along? They were not trying. So that's how committed to their art they are. So this song is a pretty cool approach on the music industry and on the music listener. I think is the fact that what does music represent for people as well. It's really beautiful. I like it.
What about the when it goes back to the progressive section, about 3 minutes 40 into the song, and then it hits the reggae vibe?
Oh man, do you know they were really influenced by the Police? So
do you know what, man? I'm so glad you said that, because I was just thinking around the same time the Police were combining rock, new wave, and
they were listening to them. Reggae. They were listening to the Police. That's why. It shows, doesn't it?
The middle prog transition, and I think this is quite an important point. The middle transition of this song, where it goes back to the proggy part. Just the way that the instruments work together, all playing in unison, even with the drums rhythmically playing as well, it really reminded me of early Iron Maiden. And I'm going to put the song Phantom of the Opera in the playlist now, because that's the one that I thought of first. But I can the reason why I said it's a really important point is because Rush had a massive influence on heavy metal in the 80s. Excuse me. Now, I can only, I'm 100% sure that bands like Dream Theater would have taken direct influence from Rush.
Oh, they did, yeah.
Prog
They've
bands like
mentioned it
Opeth
many
as
times.
well, but I'm thinking more non-linear, not straight from the progressive side of it. And bands like Iron Maiden, I believe, would have had ample reason to listen to bands like Rush and take influence from them.
Do you know who listened to them a lot and were
Who?
highly influenced by them? It doesn't sound like Pearl Jam
Who?
and Pearl Jam,
Oh, really?
really, and the Foo
Wow.
Fighters.
Well, yeah. You know what?
See,
And it's not like
and
you
they're
can't
not
directly
prog.
hear
Those
it,
guys
but
are not
yeah,
prog,
exactly.
But
I just wanted to say that about Iron Maiden because I've obviously got to get my 2 minutes of heavy metal in.
you got to do it,
But
isn't it?
I have to.
So we need to.
It's like you and your blues. Yeah.
That's like a segment.
Just a buzzer
Lads,
goes off when I
yeah,
mention heavy metal.
lads, heavy metal minute.
There you go. But I did really feel, a lot of the heavy metal journalists, especially the ones who are slightly older, will always put Rush albums into an extensive. Okay, you want the best heavy metal albums between 1970 and 2020? Rush will be in there somewhere because those people definitely believe that Rush had a big impact on metal. And I haven't studied Rush enough to be able to make that comparison myself, but a number of notable heavy metal journalists have made those observations. So I can't help but just fine, I'll trust them. But yeah, anything else about Spirit of Radio?
Well, I think we can move on. Talk about free will.
Yeah, we did free will, didn't we? I mean,
We did.
right here.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Yeah. So let's. Yeah.
I think. Go on, please.
Although the one song we didn't talk about yet was Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, you are right. Yeah. But free will.
Yeah, free will.
I liked what have I put here? So yeah, despite how intricate and how layered the song is, I don't know if you agree with me. The song and the album does feel produced. It feels like a lot of time and technology has been used to make this album sound good. But when you get to 3 minutes into Free Will and you've got the bass playing on its own, the bass sounds so raw, man. It sounds
just before the guitar solo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 3 minutes in. Yes, you're right. 15 seconds before the guitar solo. But it feels like the kind of bass you'd hear if you were just listening to, I don't know, a punk album or a very raw rock album. It's not the tone of bass I'd expect to hear on a very well-produced progressive album. And even 15 seconds later, the guitar comes in. My point is that at moments in each of the songs, despite the technology used, despite the synthesizer, you can still just imagine one man pressing down on a pedal and making that guitar noise. One man, slamming on his bass guitar to get that tone. It doesn't need to go through all the computers and all the processing.
No, exactly. They have that raw power, isn't it?
And it's just a fantastic contrast to the really great electronic stuff they do as well.
Definitely. And again, about that point of the song, I love the way that they do that in a few songs, but in this album is very clear with Free Will. They changed the vibe completely to prepare for the guitar solo. I love that. It's like, come on, guys, stop and listen to our boy Alex. He's gonna play.
He never gets enough credit. He never gets enough credit. Let's give him this.
So it's super cool that they kind of change the beat, change the bass line. They change the mood of the song, and I think even the chord progression. And then the guitar comes in and just smashes it. And it's not long. It's not a long solo. It's not a long song.
But it's effective. It's effective. Yeah. Jacob's Ladder. I mean, very progressive off the bat. I mean, not ultimately, not like the most progressive song you've ever heard, but it is progressive compared to the first two, isn't it? Much more atmospheric, and I think again that just goes hand in hand with the progressive feel of it.
I love the marching band style at the beginning with
the
snare drum. It's just like and it's so like subtle. There's way more dynamics in that. So basically, that's every drummer knows that all drum techniques, they come from the tradition of rudiments, which are the snare drum techniques. So that was kind of translated to the whole kit. But that one piece of the drum kit, the one drum, there is kind of the beginning of it all for drummers is the snare drum. And good drummers can make a hell of a sound with that one piece. And you hear that on that song, and it's very different to the other stuff that Neil does in the rest of the album.
Yeah.
But just that one snare, doing a marching band kind of vibe, building the tension for the song. I think it's in a tricky moment in the album, is after two bangers like those opening tracks.
It feels to me like they had to say, you know, come on guys, we got to do something towards our progressive roots, you know. I liked it. I thought it was really quite heavy in nature, and I'm not saying heavy in the terms of heavy metal or like heavy rock. I just mean in nature. The rhythms were heavy, just that stomping rhythm at the start. The chord choices, they were quite dark, you know, the instrument tones as well. And I love that the song builds in intensity, kind of takes you on this journey. And like I said about the bass tone in the previous song, I really loved how the first half of the song was kind of really raw, very rock and roll, and then the middle section comes in and it's way more produced and electronic. But it wasn't stupidly noticeable, you know.
No,
yeah, I enjoyed that one.
And I think it flows as well, isn't it? I think the reason why those songs are shorter in this album compared to the previous albums is they got to a point they could transition from one part to another in such a natural way that you can have a lot of different parts in a shorter song, without having to have a 3-part song that lasts for 17 minutes. You know, they've managed to be more straight to the point in a certain way.
They've executed it using less than what other bands have needed to do before them. They've really found a nice way to keep their songs concise, confined, but still achieving the label of progressiveness, isn't it?
Yeah,
really good
brilliant
stuff. Entre Nous, good, way more refined and classic rocky, isn't it? Just kind of has that very simple kind of rock riff going on. Now I love the way that the acoustic guitars come in the chorus, and that's a little.
It's like instead of getting heavier on the chorus, it gets.
It's just like it's just like my favorite Black Sabbath song, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, when they go to the chorus. It's like a complete turn it on its head. You kind of think, you know, when you think of like the metal ballad and a Metallica song like Fade to Black, where it's got the acoustic guitar and it gets soft verse, heavy chorus, soft verse, you know, but that's how you kind of work with a lot of rock songs, but to just completely turn it on its head and have the verses kind of heavy and then go softer for the choruses. I always love it when they do that.
Yeah, and they again, it's unpredictable, isn't it? You think you're going to have a punchy chorus, and they're just like, nah, we're going to do whatever we think we should do. And Russia's really good at that. Just the fact that they were not trying to write a hit, they were not trying anything. We said the same about ZZ Top, isn't it? Those guys are not trying really hard. They're just like, you know what, this is who we are musically, and we're going to do it like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about you and Entre Nous? Anything you wanted to say?
No, I think that covers it all. I think the next one is Different Strings, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah. Closest thing to a ballad they did on the album, isn't it? Really nice there, really nice and soft. I thought it was actually probably the most produced one of all the songs in terms of having that 80s overproduced electronic kind of vibe to it. I really loved the outro about 3 minutes in. You know, what does hold on, something happens there. Let me just have a quick listen. It like
Laz's notes.
It's just a stomp, isn't it, or something like that?
In what part?
Oh yeah, it's just the outro of that song goes.
Oh yeah.
Well, one note, man, one note, and it feels so heavy. Like I was there going, oh, that guitar tone, and it's just one note. Boom. Boom, so slow, man. But I really
and then again,
that
there's a similar kind of theme to the lyrics that, if you compare to Entre Nous, which is, you know, again, human connections, and you know, what they say, that is it, different eyes see different things, different hearts beat on different strings. I think that's the verse.
Okay, all right.
I hope I got it right. Yeah. So basically, it's like, yeah, you are a different person, so you can't see the world in the same way I see. So that's my interpretation of it.
That's nice.
And although there is that, oh yeah, oh actually I have the lyrics here. Different eyes see different things, different hearts beat on different strings.
Oh,
But there are times for you and me when all such things agree. And that's beautiful.
oh.
Like it's
That's
just
lovely. What a
just
lovely lyric.
isn't it? It's great. So I must say that this is my favorite song in the album.
Yeah.
And again,
I'm really surprised by that, I have to say.
man, because that song, well, Geddy Lee's lyrics, different like writing style,
Yeah.
and you get into that point in the album, you are already mesmerized by their musical abilities. And it's like, my God, how can they come up with such complicated yet interesting parts? And then they just
They hit
throw
you
this
with this one.
ballad on
Yeah.
you, and it's such a beautiful piece
That's a
of music
great
with
point, man. Yeah.
piano and acoustic guitar. And you're like, what is that? It like you're just gonna make me cry now? Is that it?
Lovely.
It's beautiful. I love it. Love it. And the
Um,
last song.
and the last song, Natural Science, clocking in at not just over 9 minutes. They actually split this song into three parts, you know, officially. So part one is called Tide Pools, part two is called Hyperspace, and part three is called Permanent Waves. I've just got 4 notes here about certain sections of the song. 2 minutes in, they're quite uneasy rhythms. It's kind of got a bit of a Latin vibe. Let me just put it on so I can. So, really rushing, you know. We know that rock music likes to be on the beat, so for it to push and
More
more
syncopated
just a
vibes.
bit
Yeah,
progressive. 2 minutes 20. The after that part comes in a riff that I thought was very, very heavy metal, like
yeah.
really nice, really distorted, really heavy. I already said it. 3 minutes 3 minutes 55. The first drum solo of the album,
Yeah, it's a
which is just
drum
that like
break.
2 bar
Yeah,
break. Yeah, and
and it's
then
beautiful. Again, like
it
it's
was
like
yeah.
Neil Peart had that thing when people give him a short break in a song, like a bar or two, and he fits a ridiculous amount of drum sounds into that small sequence, and it just works. It's not,
Yeah.
for me. It never sounds like he's overplaying.
No,
It's
no, no,
just
I
it's
agree. And
just
it actually took me by surprise, which I thought, hold on, it's a prog album, and that
yeah.
drum break took me by surprise. Like, hold on, that
Yeah,
shouldn't
and
work.
right, the other thing is the guitar solos. Proceed with your notes. I don't want to
No, no,
break your
no. Listen, I just
your
have one more.
system.
I was just going to say 5 minutes 30 in, it goes to like a fast waltz. It's
Uh,
really unusual, but I just thought the way that they transition song to song,
yeah,
within each song, when they go to different sections, I just love it, man. I think they do it so perfectly. It never feels out of place. It never
no,
feels like, oh right, well they tried to put in like some fast waltz here, and they've done it on purpose. It always feels like the song naturally moves that way. It's lovely.
because again, I think it reflects their personality and their they are intellectuals. You know, they are clever people, so
Yeah,
they think in that way and they write in that way, but they're not just like, oh, look at me trying to be clever here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's just who they are, you know.
yeah. Great stuff, man. That's all my notes on the songs. That's all the parts I wanted to
Man,
say. I wanted
are
to
we
ask.
get yeah,
Go on, no, no,
please,
go on.
please, please. No.
Okay, I was going to ask you something. This to me, and my knowledge of prog is very limited compared to like my, other stuff I know about. I feel like when you talk about prog in the 80s, I think everyone kind of sighs and rolls their eyes because you think of Genesis going way more poppy. Yes, probably went a bit poppier as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you think, would you say this album is responsible for, I don't want to call it the downfall of prog, but they so obviously showed us here how you can make prog radio friendly. And I do
But it's
wonder,
not silly pop music, isn't it?
no, it's not, but it's accessible.
Yeah,
So,
it's very
what I'm asking
okay.
is, sorry,
I
let me just ask, let me just
Mhm.
finish because I want to ask you the proper question. Linking what we did, I'm trying to think what prog albums have we done? We did Genesis, didn't we?
Yeah, we did
Taking England by
selling
76,
England
right?
by the pound.
1976. So
We did Emerson,
Genesis,
Lake and Palmer's first album.
okay. So from those to those same bands in the 80s, it just has kind of dawned on me that Permanent Wave sits in the middle. Do you think
Oh
Permanent Waves is that catalyst to prog becoming way more poppy?
no,
You
because
don't?
I don't think anyone followed Rush. Because I'll tell. So here's my opinion. This is not a prog album
Wow, hot take. That's all right.
because
I'm there for that.
it's got two prog songs. You could call them prog, which is Jacob's Ladder and Natural Science. This is a Rush album.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, yeah.
It is one of those cases that a band sounds like themselves and
Yeah.
nothing else. There's the thing is, what I say, I don't think the album itself has changed the way the other bands could have done. Um, I don't know, their own albums. I think it has
Yeah.
influenced musicians in a deeper way. Like, how do you approach your instrument? How do you approach songwriting? But I wouldn't say that prog bands were even listening to Rush. I don't.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Rush is Rush. I think they do sound like themselves, and they were making a point in this album, like this is who we are as a band, and I don't think anyone can sound like them. So,
Brilliant.
and I don't think I think it's one of those cases you can't just call it prog or hard rock. It's rock. It's rock
Yeah.
music for sure. But
Yeah.
what kind of rock? We could just be debating, and that would be just words, isn't it? But this,
Yeah.
they have a particular sound that no one else has, and in that album, that was made crystal clear. If you still didn't understand that Rush has a sound of their own, when you listen to Permanent Waves, you get it. And here's the thing: we
Lovely
talk
put, man.
about
Well put. That's lovely.
yeah, and Rush is one of those bands. I'm pretty sure you think the same. It's like it's one of those bands. If you're a rock fan, you've heard of them
Mm.
and you've heard about their influence and their importance, and you're like, oh yeah, cool, we'll have a listen one day, and you listen to a couple of songs or an album, and you kind of understand why people like them, but you still kind of don't get into it. It's too much for you, too complicated, too specific. If you want to have a go at one Rush album, if you want to try, if you want to taste how Rush feels like, this is the album I would recommend.
Brilliant stuff, man. Do you have any further points you want to talk about?
I
Talking
just want to
points?
hear a monologue if you have one.
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
you don't want
that's
to say
it.
anything else? You
Oh
good?
no, no. I want to
Okay,
say a lot
cool.
of things, but life is too short. Got to do something else today.
Well, do you know, I will just quickly add that in terms of the reception, it was their most successful album at the time of release. So when it
Yeah.
came out, it just took over. It became the most famous Rush album of that time. Um, a quick point that's going to relate to my monologue is Alex Lifeson said he was unsure about the album when he first listened to it. He didn't know if they'd done the right thing.
Oh wow.
In the terms of the charts, it went to number 3 in Canada, number 3 in the UK, and number 4 in the US. So I think it did pretty well commercially.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for my monologue, it's quite a short one, but I feel like there's one big point that I make. Both the instant and lasting effect of Permanent Waves on listeners draws me to the same conclusion. This is an album that should be played and heard on the radio, but it should also leave music appreciators very impressed. The balance struck between intricate progressive music and radio-friendly accessibility is very impressive. I can understand Lifeson's unease about the album upon his first listen. At times it can feel too poppy, too synthy, too much of a sellout, and then at others it goes the other way from what you think they're trying to achieve, and say, well, are these songs, Jacob's Ladder, Natural Science, too progressive? But one fix ends up solving both of these problems, and that is the length of the album. It is far better to be left wanting more than to have too much of an average thing. Clocking in at 35 minutes, I think there is the perfect amount of everything. It's not so poppy that it gets us talking about, oh, well, did Rush sell out? It's not so synthy that we're saying, well, is this, a typical 80s album? And it's not so progressive that we have to talk all technical when trying to understand the music. It restrained and controlled itself on each of those aspects and probably unintentionally ended up creating a prog rock masterpiece because of this. Because if there were any more songs of either type, any more prog or any more pop, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did. There was just enough of everything to make me come back for more, and I certainly will be coming back for more of this album.
Brilliant, man. You should release a book with your monologue.
We'll do that. Yeah, we'll put the little monologues in each of the little things, like the little quote at the bottom of the page.
Book. Yeah, Lazar's monologues. Man, yeah. Yeah, that's it. That sums it up, I think.
I think I just really wanted to home in that point that I think if this had been an album that was 56 minutes long, I don't think I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
because it would either have been too many pop songs or too progressive. But the fact that they just stuck
The
with
length
six
is just,
songs, only two of them are over 5 minutes or something like that. Yeah, 9 minutes. I'm going backwards. 9 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 5 minutes. So yeah, only two songs are over 5 minutes 20.
So
Uh,
maybe they did that on purpose, maybe not.
I
Maybe
really
again, it's
like to
just
think they said, maybe we have got 3 or 4 more songs we could put on, but
yeah.
let's just keep it like this. But yeah, excellent stuff. One more final point from me to ask you.
Yeah.
What is rock and roll about this album?
Oh, tough. Don't know. I think the constant search for something, some sort of sound that you haven't made before, some sort of song structure that you haven't achieved, or a lyric that you didn't write on the previous album. The fact that you're 7 albums into your career and you think we can do something completely different this time. I think that's rock and roll.
That's a great point, man. Yeah, great point. Anyway, right, we'll call it a day there. So thank you very much, listeners and viewers, if you're watching on YouTube, for joining us. As usual, please find us on the internet. We are at Long Live RNR Pod on all of the sites, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You know, if it's there, we're on it. Actually, that's not true because we're not on Twitter or Threads or whatever the new ones are, but we're on the important ones. So please go there. Give us a like.
Somewhere on the internet.
There you go. Give us a like, give us a follow, and please, if you listen to us on Apple or Spotify, we just need 20 seconds of your time. Head to the show, go down and review us, tell us your thoughts. It just means the world of difference to us. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot for being with us one more time, and keep on rocking, everyone, and don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Love it. And as usual, take care, guys, and long live rock and roll.